ended up stopping out in the threes and lost over $10,000 on this day right here before it inevitably died later in the day, went all the way down, I think sub $1 that day. But I was really sad. It was a situation where I lost over 20 to 1 risk reward on one play, on one decision when I'm on vacation and just trying to enjoy myself and have a good time. And instead I go and, a day I just shouldn't have traded and lose over 20 to 1, lost over $10,000 on FFIE, risking 500 bucks. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Clover Trading YouTube channel. My name is Dom, and today it seems like we're doing a little bit of best and worst. So we're going to talk about some high moments over the past few months in the stock market, and we're going to talk about some low moments. And one particular low moment with which I think we should start with, because it's always best to get the negative out first, right, is FFIE. I'm sure someone else is probably going to talk about this as well. It seems like in the market, especially in small cap land where we live, everyone kind of has the same big loss. I mean, a couple years ago, it was TOP, where we all were trading these Chinese liquidation plays, these IPOs, and that one just held up and held up and held up, and we all got burned for 50, 60, 70, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it wasn't a lot of fun, but we all kind of shared in that moment, a trauma friend, if you will. We all kind of shared the same pain. And I think a lot of people also feel that way with FFIE this year, because this is one of those crazy runners. They have a reverse split. So you can see on the chart, these prices are not exactly accurate. It was more like 5 cents to $4, which is still an insane move. But over the course of 4 days, it was the first time in a long time we've seen a stock go through day 3, day 4. A lot of the times on these stocks on day 2 had just been gapping up 50, 100%, and then failing. And this was the first time I remember very vividly. This day 2 here, we were doing an all-day webinar. And this was the day I was about to leave on a golf trip. And it was pretty insane that we had, I think at this point, it was like 5 cents to 60 cents, up towards $1. And it was just nice to have a runner. But I remember being short on this day right here on the 15th of May and thinking that we were close to the top. And it couldn't have been further from the truth, considering what it ended up doing after that. But this was the night. I mean, we did the all-day webinar. We had a lot of fun. I think Kyle lost a bit. Huddy lost a bit. I lost a bit. But it was controlled. Everything was still a good situation. We had an insane mover. We had, I think this was running off of hype from GME and AMC and Roaring Kitty and all that stuff. So it was a good market. Even at my golf tournament, there was people there trading FFIE who were like, didn't know anything about the stock market, but we're buying this, we're buying like CRKN. There was a couple of Billy Boys, GWAV. It was a good market, a good time. So it was nice to have these runners, and FFIE in particular was one of the main ones. This day here, as we start to speed up in this move, on this day, I believe it was like in the 2s, 1 to the 2s on this day right here, pre-split. And I was gone. I had 2 golf matches that day. I played early in the morning. I played in the afternoon. Like, I was not trading. Didn't have a laptop, wasn't in front of a computer screen, and I was just kind of watching. And I having traded it the day before when we were already up from 5 cents to like 60 cents up towards $1, I was thinking like, this thing is done. Like, it is, any further it goes up, like we are so close to the top, like it doesn't even matter. And I had a few drinks in me. I'm playing golf. I'm having a good time. And I just pull up the chart and it had a huge crack off its highs at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm thinking like, okay, I've taken my loss on it yesterday. I'm now on vacation and I'm just going to throw some shares in. I'm just going to short a little bit and risk the highs. And at that point, I think I was risking like $1 a share. And this was a time in May when I was risking $500 per trade. Maybe not even that much. If you followed along in our video lessons, I've kind of increased size as the year's gone on. And at this point, I was risking like, I think $300 to $500 per trade. And I put on like 5K shares. We had like $1.50 or $2.50, whatever it was. I was risking $1 off the highs because I'm like, there's just no way it goes back to the highs. Like, this is a meme stock. It's already gone from 5 cents to $2 or $3, whatever it is. And there's just no way that this continues higher. It's going to gap down tomorrow. And it's going to be a great Friday for my golf trip. I'm going to play good golf. I'm going to have fun with my friends, and I'm going to make a bunch of money. And I think it's always funny how these big losses all start. And it's always like a random idea or a stupid decision, or I'm on vacation, I want to do something, just get involved in the market. And it's just not what you would do if I was sitting there. Like, I would never have put on more than $1,000 of risk when I'm risking $500 per trade. And it's so easy to do. When I'm sitting in a room, about to go out for another golf round, hang out with my friends, and it's just so easy because it's not real. It feels like you're just placing a sports bet or gambling online, whatever it is. The market can definitely feel like that sometimes. And I remember, that very vividly. I remember exactly where I was sitting, who was around me when I made that trade, and just felt like it was really irresponsible at the time. and I ended up shorting. I didn't watch it at all into the close. I was already down on my position when it closed. I was in the after hours, we're like hanging out with friends, going to dinners, like having drinks. Like the last thing I should be doing is oversize on a stock that I'm short that's already up from 5 cents to $3 and is now gapping in the after hours. And I remember like really vividly watching it like spike into like 8 o'clock Eastern, right at the end of after hours, like really start to rip on me and be like, oh my gosh, this is now going to be tomorrow's problem, because now I'm already down a ton. I'm oversized. And I didn't know too, this was like a time too when I've been really trying to focus on discipline, and FFIE really opened up the door wide. Like my biggest loss of the year before this was like $1,000. And now I'm staring at like a 5K loss, a 6K loss. All of a sudden, like I'm risking 500 and I'm losing 10 to 1. Like going into tomorrow, like if we don't gap down, like I'm screwed. Ended up gapping up pretty big. I remember looking at it at 4 a.m. We had an early golf game, so I was watching it from my phone. Ended up stopping out in the threes and lost over $10,000 on this day right here before it inevitably died later in the day and went all the way down, I think sub $1 that day. But I was really sad. It was a situation where I lost over 20 to 1 risk reward on one play, on one decision when I'm on vacation and just trying to enjoy myself and have a good time. And instead I go and, a day I just shouldn't have traded and lose over 20 to 1, lost over $10,000 on FFIE, risking $500. So that's the worst trade of the year. It taught me a lot of really good lessons, just in terms of we're always trying to focus on consistency. We're always trying to focus on how to be the best trader we possibly can for as long as possible, right? Like how many green weeks can we stack on top of each other? How many green months can we stack on top of each other? How can we be as consistent as possible when it comes to following our rules? And no matter how good you are, I mean, Kyle got blown out on FFIE, and he is, I think, one of the most disciplined, successful traders I know. These are just constant reminders that, like, no matter what you're focusing on, no matter how you're doing that year, that week, that day, that month, this is always around the corner. If you're not paranoid, if you're not ready to prepare for it, if you are not being disciplined in that moment, it just takes one little micro decision, one little, Discord message saying, FFIE, oh my gosh, it's at 3. Oh my gosh, it's at 2. And it was at 5 cents 2 days ago. And, just the decision to just go and make a trade from my phone and put on more risk. Like, I got blown out on this, but what if it gapped to 5? What if it gapped to 10? How much could I have lost? On such a small position in my mind, what it could turn into. And that's how every big loss is. It's like, we don't want to have these big losses. We don't like go out searching for them. Obviously, we think we're in a good convicted spot when we take these trades, but they are so avoidable. And it is crazy how easy it is to break the rules, how when you start to break them just a little bit, it can go so sideways on you. And then all of a sudden you're waking up at 5 a.m. and you're underwater a ton. And you're just like, how did I get myself in this position again? This is the biggest loss by far for me all year. And there are so many great lessons, because it's like most of the year I've been so disciplined. And this one moment, this tiny little decision that I've made cost me, a month of profits, 2, whatever it is, like 20 to 1 risk reward. Like that is like really, really insane. And it is super avoidable. We talk about all the time over at clovertrading.io about how to, manage your risk, how to become a good loser. Like this is a bad loser, because this shows, that I'm immature, irresponsible position, oversized. How many rules can I break at once? That's really what this was. And I paid the price. A lot of times you beginners, you get away with a lot of stuff. You can do bad habits and you make some money, maybe even make a lot of money doing it. And eventually it will come back to bite you. And this was one of those situations where for a lot of traders who were not focused on risk management, they took big losses and they paid the price. And I know Kyle took his biggest loss ever, I believe, on FFIE. I took my biggest loss of the year, risking what I thought was super small, just out golfing, and lost over 5 figures on this. So that is the worst trade of the year. The best situation that I kind of saw, I don't have any like standout trades since we last talked. A lot of 2 to 4K winners. I think first greenies have done quite well these days. The 3-day breakout has done really well. The last one of those that worked out really goodly was BOF right in here. And you can kind of see, again, this 3-day breakout sequence, which is, I think Huddy called it the 3-day breakout. A lot of people call it 3rd day surge, liquidity trap. I just call them multi-day breakouts, and they keep happening in this 3-day sequence where, for me, a multi-day breakout is a stock that goes on a run. Maybe it's a day, maybe it's 3 days. It sets a top and it spends at least 1 day before breaking that high. What we've seen lately is stocks not consolidating for 2, 3, 4 days in between. They're having this one off day right here where they consolidate under the high. BOF, set its top at 265. We pull back and have a slight green day right here and then break out the next day on good volume. When there's been volume there, it's been phenomenal. I think AGBA was a good one either this year, last year, FEMY. We've also had a lot where if the volume is not there, they just do not work. ELWS, I think about. I don't know if it actually broke out or not. It failed. Okay, at the breakout level. BKYI was one recently that broke out and failed. People are definitely catching on to the pattern. And if the volume is not there, it's actually looked more like a great short because there were so many longs crowded into the stock. But BOF was a situation in which we had the 3-day breakout sequence. We set that top at 265. We hold up and we gap right into that level. And we set a 5-minute high break. We break out over the 260s and we go all the way into the $4 area. And this was like a 2 or 3K winner for me. It was very predictable because, like I said, it's been happening a lot this year. I think especially with the move to T+1, a lot more buy-ins are happening on this day. A lot more people are not willing to swing another day overnight short if they're in a predicament and they're in a bad situation in the stock. Instead of fading more off the highs than it is, it's holding up and it's consolidating near the highs. And we get these really nice moves like BOF. I think first green days as well on the runners that we've had have worked out really great. GLMD is a reversal that I just traded in the past couple weeks ago, where we go from the 5s all the way up into the 20s. And we have one red day. So a reversal for me, it's very similar to a first red day that Kyle would short, where the stock gets overextended to one side of the equation and we're just looking to trade the opposite of that. And in this case, we go on a huge run, and then I think we go down a little further than we should in a fast period of time. So we go from 24 all the way to 6s in one day. Like, that's a really phenomenal move down. You got to think that a lot of people are either getting paid on their shorts, longs are really, really underwater, and we're just so far off the highs in such a short period of time that it is really possible and probable that we're going to bounce back. Things don't go straight up and they don't go straight down. So when something goes too far to one side too quickly, I want to be on the opposite side of that trade. And GLMD was a situation in which we had pre-market volume, which is something I've been focusing a lot on these days with the first green days and reversals. Is it's really difficult to predict which ones where the volume is going to come back in and actually get a good bounce. But a good indicator of that is if we're trading pre-market volume. If we have some sort of news, a PR, a catalyst on the day that I think it should bounce. And this is a case where it was up 15 or 20% in pre-market, kind of drifted back into the open. And then we got a great 5-minute high break in the 9s and went all the way into the 13. So that was a great trade. We've also had monkeypox, which was really great. And I kind of butchered, to be honest. I think about APDN, GovX, and VRAX. What could have been one of the bigger trades of the year is a situation on this day right here where we have these first green days. I should have locked in a ton of money on these first green days, are these reversals where the stock again goes from the 1s all the way into the 9s here on VRAX. GovX was the leader, and it goes from a slow move from the 1s all the way up into the 11s. They have a really significant first red day, and then they all bounce back. APDN did the same thing as well. And we also got some monkeypox news in the United States on this day. I swung them all into the close. I remember it was Wine Wednesday. I was up like almost 10,000 unrealized on these 3 plays going into the next day. And VRAX did an offering at like 9 p.m. Eastern. So the markets were all closed. It was a good indicator that we were probably going to gap down. 4 a.m. hits and they all got hit pretty hard. So instead of being up near the breakout level, they were all red on the day. And that was really unfortunate, but there's a situation that I want to put myself in time and time again, which is big first green days, big breakouts in the right sector with the right catalyst, with the right news, and put myself in the position to be super patient and super, aggressive in terms of price target and profit target. And this was a situation which it didn't work. We're trading the crappiest stocks in the market, and we're trading cheap stocks in a weird sector and looking for really big breakouts. And they ended up being, bounce shorts, and it is what it is. But I put myself in the position to make $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, risking very small. Ended up, making some money on the other 2. VRAX definitely took a loss on, and that's unfortunate. But this is a situation that I want to be in that, I look forward to when I say, the best and the worst of the year. This is one of the better situations I was in, having missed this initial big gap up day as well. But a situation I want to put myself in more often than not in trading these multi-day breakouts on stocks in a hot sector. So that is my best and worst over the past few months. Multi-day breakouts, first green days are working. And then obviously FFIE is the biggest blunder of the year so far for me. And it's just unfortunate, but it's a great learning lesson. It's something that I'm going to take with me going into this next month and this next year, just to remind myself that, I should always be paranoid that something bad could happen, that I might be, one decision away from a big loss, and I can avoid that. And if I just continue, maybe you guys can learn from those mistakes as well, because they are avoidable and they are things that you can learn through us so you don't have to make those mistakes yourself.